you're probably here because you have the SAF windows open and you need to complete your audits for your whole farm plan this year. You are required to complete 2 audits this year. You may already have these in place from last year, but if you did an animal health and welfare plan last year or an integrated pest management plan last year, they require updating every year. The carbon audit, the biodiversity audit, and the soil analysis only need doing every 5 years. And at the minute, it's only a requirement to do this if you're claiming basic payments and greening, or for the FFIS, which is reopening again this summer. You only need to do plans that are relevant to your croft for your whole farm plan. You can read that yourselves, but the biodiversity audit will be by 2028 required by everybody who is submitting a SAF for basic payment. All the other plans will be required by 2028, but you may not need to do them if they're not relevant to your croft. So if you don't have livestock, you don't need to do an animal health and welfare plan, for example. So remember, just for your whole farm plan, you just need to choose the plans that are relevant. You may have these plans in place already from last year's SAF or through a quality insurance scheme. The only one that actually requires submission is a biodiversity audit, and you'll hear more about that tonight. For the other plans, you just have to tick a box on your SAF to indicate you've completed it, and then it's wise to keep them just in case you get inspected. By 2028, the biodiversity audit will be mandatory, or a mandatory element of your whole farm plan if you're claiming basic payment. The biodiversity audit excludes individual common grazing shares and seasonal land. If you, as a group, you submit an application for basic payment as part of a sheep stock club for your common grazings, then the group is required to complete a biodiversity audit. So very briefly, how can you complete your biodiversity audit? You're going to find out about this tonight, so I'm not going to dwell on that, but there are a number of different methods, some of which are quite high-tech and others which are not. Just to say, it's not necessary currently to demonstrate improvement year by year. You may already be doing everything you can. And looking ahead, as I say, by 2028, you'll need to have all your relevant plans and audits in place. Possibly a nutrient management plan may be required by then. And in future years, it is possible that complying with the whole farm plan might be required for other funding, such as CAGs. As I say, at the minute, it's just for basic payments and greening and for the FFIS fund, but in the future, it may be for other funds. So yeah, it's not something you can ignore, even if you don't claim basic payment.
Thanks, Celia. I'm going to start with a PowerPoint and then hand over to Kay for the demo. As Celia said, it's myself, Liz Orty. We work on the Farm Biodiversity Project at Nature Scott. I'm the project manager, and Kay is a specialist advisor with her particular responsibility is the tool itself, the Farm Bioscott tool. So the Farm Biodiversity Project and tool is part of Nature Scott's Farming with Nature programme, which is funded by Scottish Government. And this is developing and testing tools that can help farmers and crofters recognise habitats and biodiversity on their land and the potential benefits that nature can bring to their business. There's 2 tools that Nature Scott is testing and working on at the moment. One is the Farm Biodiversity Scotland's tool, which is at farm or croft level. Is an opportunity, a way of creating the biodiversity audit map for the whole farm plan. And there's also the natural capital tool, which some of you may have come across, which is looking at a more landscape scale, looking at an integrated approach, and that's kind of a sister project to ourselves in Farming with Nature. So we can give more information about that if anyone would like more later, but I'll keep going with a little bit more about the Farm Biodiversity Scotland tool and the project. So the project is developing a simple biodiversity auditing and planning process for farmers and crofters that they can carry out themselves. And the way we're testing this is through the Farm Biodiversity Scotland tool. So the first stage, which we're focusing on tonight, is the mapping. So mapping the habitats and features on the farm or croft. Then we're developing this further into this kind of auditing tool. So the next stage is measure, and that's doing some simple habitat condition assessments for habitats on the farm or croft. Those two features are already within the tool. At the moment, we're now doing further work, and we're going to be doing testing this summer of a step on management. So this will be based on the mapping and the measuring that's been done, suggestions and options for management actions that can be carried out to help improve biodiversity and specifically to help improve the condition of those specific habitats. And then the final step in our 4-step process is monitor. So basically, having done all this measuring, come back and have a look at how things have changed over time once perhaps new management's put in. So that's our kind of 4-step process in the project. Moving on to the biodiversity audit itself, this slide shows the list of habitats and features that are available to map for the whole farm plan biodiversity audit. And I can share a link to our webpage, which has a list of these habitats with the habitat descriptions to go with them as well. But I just thought it was worth putting this up on the screen just to show that they're divided up into broad habitats like cropland, grassland, and so on. There are area features, linear features like hedges and dry stone dikes, and then some point features as well. Just check. And in terms of the minimum requirement for the whole farm plan, it is to include all land managed on a permanent basis, including some land which may not have a land parcel identifier, which is also known as white space, to assign a habitat to each land parcel, and also to include linear features. So that's the kind of minimum requirement. But it's also recommended to do some mapping of additional habitats and to do some measuring of condition. In terms of with the Farm Biodiversity Scotland tool, there is information in there and help to guide people. For example, there's a grassland selector tool which runs through those particular habitats, and also for each habitat the description information is included in there. The tool is available on the phone and the web, and the two things connect together. So if you make changes on one on the app, that translates through to the web version on the desktop. We've been testing the tool for the last couple of years for the biodiversity audit with farmers and crofters across Scotland, and it's designed for people to use themselves. There's an onboarding process which involves mandate checking to make sure that the person has a mandate for that business, and then we can then import their data for them to use within the tool. So we're still in a piloting and testing phase, but we've got good capacity of people to sign up if they'd like to do their to use the tool to do their biodiversity audit map this year. And once signed in, people can add team members into the tool, which could be agents, advisors, family members, and so on once they're signed in. When they come in, the land parcels are imported, and so you'll see a kind of blank map looking like this. And by the end, you'll have a habitat map that looks a bit like this, and Kay will show a bit more shortly of how that looks in the tool itself. We do have a species recording functionality. This is something that people were very keen for us to include. So we have that. There is 2 ways of doing it. There's a kind of a list of species already sort of within the tool, which have been selected because they're relevant to farm management and so on. And there's also on the app, on the phone, you can scan plants and insects and get an identification that way. And you can add that to your croft, and you can record the location and date. So that's another feature kind of within the tool. And I think, yes, the final slide then is just a little bit of information about the biodiversity assessments. The example shown here is for a hedge, but we have them for various habitats, and they're based around a simple assessment giving a good, moderate, or poor results. We use a colour coding of green, amber, or red for those. And it's basically around a series of questions that people can answer, and it gives a result at the end. I'm not going to go too much into that now because I know we're short of time today and our focus is the mapping, but if people do want more information, we can happily provide that later.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to do a bit of a live demo of the web, and then I've because I can't live demo the mobile app version, I've got a little video. So bear with me. Let's see how this goes. So first of all, how do you sign up for testing and using Farm Bioscot? Go to biodiversity.scot, and there's a link in there for you to start the sign up process that Liz told you about with the mandate check or whatever. And once you clear the mandate check process, then you'll be given an email, sent an email with a link to log in, and on the app or web, whichever device that you open your email in, and you'll be able to log in without the need for a password. So once you're in, this is the home page. Just worth reiterating that we're in a testing and piloting phase. We're funded by Scottish Government, and we are using this to test how farmers and crofters get on with a digital approach to this. And all feedback is useful in terms of our further development and feeding back to Scottish Government about your feelings about this way of looking at biodiversity. So on the web first, we'll look at this, and you'll sign in and see a home page with a menu down the left-hand side there. And Liz mentioned about my team, about being able to add people, add team members. So if you maybe don't feel quite so confident digitally, you can always ask another member of the family or whoever, and it just involves adding a name and an email to invite them in. So that's quite simple. If we go to the My Farms or My Crofts, I've got a few here just because I've got various demos, but we go into Overview. And this will take you to your page. And as Liz showed you, by going through the mandate check process, we get your field boundaries from Scottish Government, the LIPIS, the Land Parcel Information Service, and you should see your own croft showing up there in green. I've already allocated some habitats to this one. Down the left-hand side, you'll see all your fields. And if you have entered previously a name for your fields in your SAF form, they will show up here rather than the actual LPID number themselves. Also down the left-hand side here, there's this About the Land button here, which I'll tap. And this is the sort of stats for your croft. And it will it shows how many fields you've mapped, how many fields you have, and the type of habitats that you've mapped. And it's an interactive quizzy thing that you can zoom in and out of to drill down into the habitats and areas that you've got, or indeed the linear features, dikes and line of trees and whatnot. And if you've assessed anything, they'll be down here. Also, there's a button here about Export Map up here in the top right. And if you click that, once you've allocated your habitats and are happy with it, you can produce a map. Now, hopefully this will work. And this is the export that you'll get. You get a 3D map, a map of the habitats. This one will show red, amber, green if you've assessed habitats, and an export of the key stats from that page. So we'll then go back to here. And as I say, once you're, go back to all fields, once you're happy with what you've mapped, you can press this whole farm plan biodiversity audit big green button here, and basically that's you saying yes, submit my information to Scottish Government, and we'll then share it with the Scottish Government land mapping team, and they will populate the LIPIS, the land parcel information service mapping. So you don't have to do anything in terms of sending it to Scottish Government or anything. All you need to do is press the button and confirm that you're happy with what you've done. Also to point out, up here in the top right, there's a wee layers button here, and that's where you can flick through between, say, the aerial photography, or you can flick on the OS map background. So there's various backgrounds, rivers, for instance. That might take a minute to load since I'm online. There we go. So there's various layers that you can toggle on and off to help you with your mapping. There's also a transparency thing here, slider, which will make the habitat colours more or less see-through. Okay, so then we'll go back to the fields, and we'll pick one of the fields here, and it takes you direct to that field, and you go, oh, I don't know what that's bog field or whatever. So we can edit the name and chuck in bog field and change that, and then it's easier for you to navigate within it. And then within it, we can click to select this habitat, and up pops this list that Liz showed you there there. And against each of those, you'll see a wee eye button, and you can click on it, and it will give you a little description of the habitat and a photograph to help you. And you can scroll down and see which you think, and then all you do is you click on the one that you want. Yes, I want to change that habitat. And there we go, it's changed to rush pasture. Wee back arrow up the top left to take you back to your list, and you'll see, there we go, named it bogfield and renamed it rush pasture. Because we're kind of quite tight for time tonight, I'm not going to go into the more complicated mapping tools, but this button up here, edit map, takes you into a different screen with, as I say, some more advanced mapping tools, but I'm not going to go into that tonight. I'm going to show you on the web, on the app, how to do some of these mapping things. So I'm just going to go back now to your main menu and point out that there is a heap of help and guidance to get you through this process if you need it. There, for instance, there's a whole book on mapping on the website, and within it we've tried to break it down into lots of different chapters for you to explore a specific query, and there's lots of screenshots and hopefully helpful guidance for you on that. And also down the bottom right hand side here, it's not hugely obvious, sorry, we were trying to do something about that, but a help desk button, and you can either get some frequently asked questions or get in touch with us, and you can put a specific query and we'll come back to you as soon as we can on that. So that was a very quick canter through the website, and now I'm going to see whether my technical skills will go through the app. Take a breath, and we're into the mobile app here. So same thing about logging into the web. You just access the link via your email on your phone, and you'll be into that. Now, the home page that you will go into will have the same sort of stats I showed you on the web, with the habitat information and the number of fields you've mapped and whatnot. But I've just started here on the map page. So, which along the bottom, underneath that, sorry, at the bottom, there's home, map, species, and settings. So we've pressed the map button at the bottom there, and it takes you to the fields. And I've zoomed in to the top bit of our croft here. Now we can either work off what's called the list view, which is this button up in the top, or by tapping a field on the map. Now, by tapping on the list view, you get a list of all your fields. And this is where if you name your fields, it makes it easier to navigate and follow. And you can see, either see the fields that you've not assigned a habitat to, or once you've assigned a habitat to them, they'll appear on the right hand side. And that just helps kind of make sure that you're not missing a little sliver of land that you've got. So we'll move on, and we can see the fields, and then we click on the map. This is another way of doing it. So you click on the map, you tap on the field that you want to assign a habitat to, and once you do that, your field detail page will come up, and it'll come up with the information about the field, the area, and various actions that you can take. And so by clicking on the tap to select habitat up there, we get the same list as we saw on the web that I showed you, and we'll choose upland mixed for this area. And then what we're going to do next is split field. So Liz said about the minimum for whole farm plan is 1 habitat per field, but we're encouraging you to try, if there's sort of distinct habitats within a field, to actually separate them out and show them. And that gives it's better in terms of when you move through the biodiversity auditing process, you'll be able to do maybe a separate condition assessment to see how things are going for that habitat. And then when we move on to the manage phase, you'll be able to get specific, maybe manage different management options for progressing, improving the condition of that habitat. So here we go, we've listed, come down the actions, and you'll see that split field button down there. So we can then go to the relevant field, we can move and find the right bit that we want to do. And then there's this whizzy functionality that we've developed for you to be able to use your finger on the phone to draw around, separate out the feature that you want to map. And in this instance, I wanted to map an area of peatland within this upland mixed habitats. That was very random line through it there. You'd probably take a little bit more care to go around the actual area of peatland. So that's what you do, and it ends up with the habitat split. You can give it a different name, and it shows the split, and you allocate the new habitat to that bit, which is peatland, and confirm that that's what you want to do. And then what also you can do is add a point feature. So do you see this green button down the bottom right hand side, green plus button? We press add. Oops, we press, hang on, let me just get that. We chose points, and chose that we wanted to add a general point feature. Now, what you do next is you just move the map about to where you want to drop the pin, and move it about, and we'll plop the pin and confirm the location. Give it a name randomly, oak tree in peatland. Okay, I admit that's totally wrong, but hey ho. Now I'm just showing you also, we had the layers button in the web. We've got the same in the app, with the different views that you can have between satellite and general map. And there's also different layers, like a peatland reference layer, and designated protected area boundaries and things like that. If you've taken photographs, you can toggle on and show the location of the photographs in there as well. So next thing we're going to look at is we're going to add a boundary feature. So whole farm plan needs a habitat per field, any linear or boundary features, and any white space, as Liz said. So looking at adding a boundary feature, we've got this new functionality this year, which, so you see that add boundary feature button, and we choose which type. So we'll choose dry stone dike. And then again, we go to the map, and there's these buttons here about move and add. So we move the map to where we want it to go. And then we go to this add button, and then use our finger to basically paint on the boundary. It automatically draws a line along the boundary where you want it to be. And then you will see it come up. We give it a name and press save. And then this was there, it is shown there along the boundary. And then you can see the field habitat and the boundary habitat. This was just looking at another field that we can do to show that there's the grassland selector tool as well in the app, like Liz talked about. So it's in the mobile app as well. And then, so it's just working through a different option. And nearly there, we are going to, that's just showing again the different transparencies that you can have for the habitats. And then we have the other page of the settings page. So just wanted to highlight some things here. We have download data for offline use here. We can use it. You can use the app when you're out of, if you're in a poor connectivity area, for instance, as long as you've pressed before you leave the house, download data for offline use, you'll be able to use it out and about. And then it will sync back up when you're back in internet Wi-Fi zone. Whole farm plan button here, you can also press submit from your mobile app. Help and guidance like on the web, and the help desk button there as well, from your settings page. So I haven't shown you the species button, but it's down in the bottom there, and that's what Liz was showing you about being able to use the species ID tool, or the list there. So that is me.
So following on from that presentation, Andy Rogers is going to talk about his experience of the biodiversity app. He's an early adopter, and he's going to tell us how he got on with it and how easy or otherwise he's found it to use.
Braydew Croft, we're located at Bannerby, just outside Fort William, and our croft has a total area just over 23 hectares. Quite a large part of that is a young woodland on our apportionment up the hill, which was planted a few years ago and was RDP supported at the beginning. We've got 2 good fields, about 3 hectares in total, and we take silage off those and graze sheep on them. And our balance of our land is a bit of mixed mature woodlands and rough grazing, and we grow fruit and vegetables. That really is our principal business. We're a small scale horticultural business here, and we sell direct to a number of customers. We do an online food hub and a monthly farmers market. We also add value with the fruit and veg that we produce. So we make a lot of cakes, jams, chutneys, cordials, and all sorts of other things. We take a couple of pigs from weaners to maturity each year. We have bees, and we do firewood sales just because of the nature of the gales that we're getting these days and the amount of fallen timber that's lying around the croft. So that's basically the croft itself. Next page down. So in terms of farm biodiversity, we attended the introductory webinar back in February 24 and decided to volunteer as part of the pilot. And so we joined the pilot in the spring of 24, and in the summer of 24, we did some mapping, some of the assessments. We're not by any means tech wizards. We picked up a few minor bugs in the system. There was very good tech support to help us through the process. Mapping was a bit tricky to set up at the beginning for us, but once you get the hang of it, it was good. And looking at what Kay and Liz have just talked about, I think the 26 version is an awful lot better than how it looked back in 24. In September of that year, we had a visit from a project officer just to kind of have a conversation with him around the croft, which was very useful. So last year, we did another test set of assessments as part of development of the audit for the whole farm plan, and we felt that the thing had been simplified and was easier to use, which was good. Too far. So that's a map of Craigdhu Croft. So you can see the big area up on the hillside here, which is the apportionment with the young woodland. And then the two fields are the two stripy ones across the road. And there's various other bits of ground around the croft. And we have put a wee burn in there. You can see running across one of the fields. We've put some islands of shrub. We put some line of trees in. But I think this year we will refine that and make that better. So that's our 23 hectares. And you can see on the right-hand side, the text is too small to read, but you can see the different types of habitat that we've assigned to each of those areas. That is one of our fields looking towards the Ben. It's quite a good wildflower meadow, and that's one of the fields that we cut silage for. We do have the opportunity to use a wildlife camera, so I was looking as to why I was getting scrapes all across one of the fields a couple of years ago, and I discovered a badger's set. So I set up the camera, and lo and behold, we've got a badger's set and a nosy pine marten, who then decided to go and enter and have a wee scrap. So there is quite a bit going on around the croft because of the mix of woodland and field. What did we learn as part of the last couple of years? So I would say that the audits become increasingly easier to use on the phone. Okay, it's very, very intuitive, and once you've done a couple of areas, it really is pretty easy to use. From our point of view, the horticulture element, you'll notice in those list of different types of field that horticulture didn't feature. So we fit within arable, so it's slightly odd fit because it's arable's more, wheat, barley, and feed crops. But we've managed that okay. One thing I would say is that the species identification of flowers and grasses function is very, very good. Okay. We ended up using it later in the season in both years because of the timing of the testing and because of where we were. But it would have been really handy to have that when that photograph I showed you earlier on was in full bloom, because it's dead simple. You just take your camera out, point at the flower or the grass, take a picture, and it gives you a choice. If it's 99% certain it's a certain flower, that's right, and you can add it to your species, and it's really, really good to use. And I'm not an expert by any means on the types of flowers and grasses, but it's been really interesting to use that. So as well as the mammals and the birds and stuff like that, you can do that, and you can also do insects. So if you see a wee green beastie, whip your phone out, take a quick picture, and it'll tell you what it is. So it's just interesting from a general point of view, never mind the whole farm plan to do that. And last year, without even trying, okay, we got up to 35 species across the croft, and I'm sure this year we'll get a lot more. You'll be really surprised by what you actually have around your croft. We got slightly confused last year about farm level and field level assessments. That was me being an idiot, but we managed to get over that. And as I said, the whole process was really interesting, and the experience will definitely improve the results. The final thing I'll say is we've done soil sampling since we've been on the croft because we grow, fruit and veg. It's very important for us to do that. So we've done a lot of soil sampling over the years, and we've done a carbon audit. But the biodiversity audit, I think, is different because it makes sense to use it throughout the growing season. Okay, because then you build up a much more comprehensive record of what you've got out on your croft. I was on the hill today doing some fence repairs, and my phone was in a pocket, and I saw a flower that I hadn't seen so far this year. Whipped my phone up, took a picture, and I've recorded that species. So it's not the thing you should be doing on May the 1st or whatever it is when the sap form is due to be in, which is what we tend to do with all that stuff. It's really helpful to just, with your phones in your pocket, if your app's up and running, it's dead easy to use. So I think from all of the lessons that we've come across, that is probably the biggest one for us.
For now, we're going to leave the Biodiversity Audit app, and we're going to go to the online mapping through the rural payment system, which is what Chris Arthur in Shetland is going to tell us about.
I'm just going to show you the rural payments website. It was shown to me by somebody at a different course. It isn't very user friendly. If you can kind of get the idea of it, it does get there. On the homepage of rural payments, if you go to locations and down to map, I've pre-opened it because it'll take forever to load. And find the location you want to do. I only have the one. And in the side bits, you find edit habitats. And I didn't open that, and this is what's going to take forever. Welcome. But I've already filled my notes, so that is what that's going to look like. You can go through all your different, we have partial fields, and it will tell you what has been filled out already. So I click on one, it should give me the details on my proposals. That'll be the unimproved grassland, and you'll see all the details down in the bottom box. But just for, if you haven't done anything yet, this is what you'll see. Take a minute to load. Is red? Is that? Yes. So it'll have slight outlines to all your fields. That is just showing everything for mine. You can go through them a whole lot as well. It's not. Up top here, you'll see the small pink ones is what you're doing. The new habitat, if you click on that, that's what you can say what kind of field it is and what kind of what habitat you're working with. But you can also add like linear habitats, so your dry stone dikes and your any kind of streams or anything you have, and also new points. So if you do find a special plant or anything like that, you can add a point to it. And it is as simple as you go in, click on that, drop the point here, and you'll add in notes. Just put flower into your notes, nature rich, and it'll give you options of what you found. General point feature are invasive non-native plant species. We don't really have any of that. It's all just heather or gush. So I didn't have to do any of them. But what you have to do is the new habitat, and it won't work at the very end. It took me forever to find that out. And left click on the field you want to work with. That'll line up. Hold on, that page is frozen. I'll do that. I'll open that up again because it's not working now. I think the Wi-Fi is that slow. There, that's better. Smart proposed layers. Yeah, I'll leave proposed layers on. The Wi-Fi is not working. But yes, so I'm going to click new habitat. The very end one, the construct polygons, and control and left click on any good highlight with a dark blue line. New proposal has to be nature rich. Doing it. And the habitat coverage, it'll give you how much, if you want to claim like that. For me, it's just peatland or upland heather. It'll give you an option of how much percentage you want to put into it. That is more than 90% for me. And for acreage, you don't have to put anything in. It will automatically take that into judgment for you. And then you have a large selection of options to put in for it. Mine is, you can see it, either upland mixed habitats for anything you're not sure of in heather that has patches of good grass, or it's just peatland for me. Click confirm, then okay, and that is saved in there. It should here. That'll show you. If you're just doing it from scratch, that'll come up highlighted. Brilliant. Once you do all your fields and everything is ticked, this will also show you the water streams and everything as well. That'll give you lengths and acreage on everything. You can go up to validate all. Go back to the parcel page. Down here, it should tell you down this little thing. It's not going to allow me to do it because I've already done it, so it's overlapping. But that should come up with no issues for you. But if any issues it does come with, like if you've put two things in one field, or if it won't accept it because it's the wrong kind of application, it will all come up in the validation process and won't let you do it wrong, basically. It was quite handy. It took a few attempts to get it right. And once you've corrected everything you can, then click finish. And a page will come up asking you if you want to print it off or save it before uploading. I recommend that you do it when I ask you, because you can't get it back once you've done it. Once it's finished and uploaded in, you can't get a copy of what they show you. I never got to save mine, and I was only told that afterwards. It was quite infuriating. But you can go through everything and double check all your stuff with the select habitat, and you can just double click and it'll show you everything that you can do. Come down and tell you the acreage and number. You can upload documents with it. I'm not sure what kind of documents that means. I assume it's if you've taken any pictures of the flowers and all, you can't upload that with everything. But it's once you kind of get around just the small issues, and it is quite easy to use. But there is no guide online that I can find that actually shows you how to use it. What's the biggest issue? So there's that. It can be very easy. You can edit anything throughout the year, validate it and send it in, and it'll change and keep a record of all that. And this changed. I don't know how long that stays on for, but you can look at previous records of it, change whatever you want, and it is free to use, but you have to use it on a computer. There's no option to use it on a phone. It's fine if you're just doing a few things. We only run about 100 odd sheep a year, so it's fine for us. But if you have more invasive species and all that, it's quite tricky to use. But there's that. That's it. I'm not tech savvy in any way whatsoever.
And finally, for those folk who are a wee bit nervous of using digital tools, you can do it on paper, as Neil McLean and Sky is now going to describe to us?
Yeah, you know, apart from looking at webinars and that, I haven't really, you know, had any professional advice on the biodiversity. So what I've done is really, it's a simple option to begin with, and you know, I'd like to develop that. You know, maybe looking at the Nature Scotland app or looking at the rural payments. You know, the mapping, etc. So really, you know, what I've done is I've just gone on, you know, the first slides that Chris showed there, really just going on to the rural payments side. Initially, getting a list of all the habitats that were there, listing them, and then logging in, going to the location and getting the maps. And, you know, as we saw in Chris's slide, you know, just, you know, very, very easy to get the information, and all the holdings are there. I mean, I've got them here if you can see them. It just prints them out, and it's got all the numbers with the holding numbers, etc. So really all the information's there. So what I've done is just, you know, put the habitats on it. It's I mean, where we're in a very much in a hill situation, hill sheep. So I mean, the sheep are taken in, you know, at different times of the year. There'll be some in just now for lambing and a shearing time. So it's very much, you know, grassland, unimproved grassland, and there's a bit of the linear habitat as well. There's a couple of rivers and streams. So I've marked that on the map, and there's also an area as well with rushes. So it really is quite a simple option. You know, and as you say, I'm sure that the local office would help in getting maps printed, and it's really, you know, it's pretty well step one, and then to develop it from there. You know, it might, you know, there will be a lot of people that are, you know, there'll be a lot of crofters that the whole farm plan like is very daunting for, and you know, it's really, you know, just to give a wee bit of confidence, you know, to get the ball rolling to begin with. So as I say, it's the very basic approach, but you know, I'm happy myself to develop that, and you know, I've actually taken some information about the Nature Scotland app, and you know, I'd like to look at I've kind of looked at the rural payments one as well, and getting the maps and getting it submitted that way. But yeah, so as I say, that's pretty well what I've done. Before you print the maps off, all the holding numbers are there as well. The lipid and the croft code number will be on there. It's great, you know. It's the rural payment site's great for just getting a map printed quickly.
Did you?
I'm sure the local offices would do that, you know.
Mm-hmm. And how did you submit the maps then? Did you just take them in, or did
yeah, just really manual at the moment, just dropping them into them.
So the first question actually came in from Eden. She's asking, do you include commons? That is a bit of a complicated answer. If you have an apportionment, that is included. But if you just have your livestock on the common as an individual, you don't include the common grazing. But if you're part of a sheep stock club, for example, and that group is a separate business and submits a SAF and claims basic payment, then that group needs to do a biodiversity audit separately for the common grazings, but that would be separate from your croft biodiversity audit. That's what I understand. Is that what you understand?
My understanding is that the all the common grazings have been allocated habitats within LIPIS, but I wouldn't like to say that as 100%. But I think if you find it, if you go into LIPIS and look at the habitat maps, I think you'll find that that's already been populated. But leave it like that.
Okay, so you don't need to submit. Yeah, I think that's the information on the website is maybe a little bit confusing then, but because it just says that you don't need to submit that information, but I guess that's a bit different from the information being there already, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. To the questions. So this is with regard to the app, well, to the NatureScott app. Do the web page and the mobile app connect? For example, when you're out with the phone, you spot a species, you can log it at the time, and then it can be seen on the web app.
Yeah, they're both the app and web are synced. Anything that you change in the will be seen in the other, but that would happen when you're back in internet zone.
Andy is asking if he adds a team member, can they download the app to their phone and then use it out on the croft to species ID? Will the app allow two phones to sync back to the one croft plan?
Yep. So with the different users, they're all connected to the one croft. So you can have any number of people on their phones or web or whatever, and it'll all come together.
That's grand. So now we've got two questions which kind of are similar, really. Does the NatureScott app supersede the ARPID mapping tool? And do you have to do the audit twice? Once on the rural payment site and then the NatureScott site?
Yeah, no, you don't have to do it twice. And we are just an alternative means for getting the habitat mapping information into the Scottish Government mapping tool. So if you do it through Farm Bioscot and press the submit for whole farm plan button, then we will share that with Scottish Government and they'll put it into the Scottish Government mapping site. So no need to do it twice, and no, we're not superseding or anything. We're just one means of doing the habitat map. As Neil has shown, there's a paper way or there's digital way, and we're just providing hopefully a simpler way and a way of letting you get more involved with the nature on your croft and record species and whatnot as well.
Wendy is asking about how she applies for access to the app, and she's also commenting that Chris had said that the rural payments mapping is free. The NatureScott tool is free as well. I can answer that,
yes.
But I will let you describe how to get on
to
the tool.
So you can go to our sort of landing page that we call it, biodiversity.scot. Go on the internet, go to biodiversity.scot, and it will there's a button there for you to sign up, and from there you have to answer some information about your email, obviously name and an email, but also who's the responsible person within RPNS for that business. So that's what we're saying about doing a mandate check to make sure that we're not sharing field boundaries with people willy-nilly. That if you have to enter the information as it's shown in RPNS, and we go through that check and then release the field boundaries to you. So hopefully all pretty straightforward, but that's the link if you go to biodiversity.scot. Or indeed, sorry, that's on the web, but for mobile app, go to the app stores and put in Farm Biodiversity Scotland, and you'll get it through there.
If you start with the app, can you start with the app?
You can start either way, and then access either way as well. So
I used the NatureScott app web page last year and produced my biodiversity plan for my croft. So I assumed I'll be able to find that again I'm assuming I'll be able to log in and find it. But and I assume that if there's been no changes, then do I have to submit it again? However, I am a wee bit more complicated because I've managed to acquire a croft since last year. So I guess I've got to do it again. Do I have to do a separate biodiversity one, or can I just add it to the one that I had already done? And this is all starting to sound a bit complicated.
No, I hear what you're saying. Murray, yes, you'll be able to log back in and you'll be able to see your map. I didn't mention, but because it was short of time, but we take snapshots at sort of key moments sort of thing. So when you press the whole farm plan button, it effectively takes a snapshot of the map at that time, and you can then go in and see that, because you might, as Chris said, make changes throughout the year. So you might carry on and do some changes, but still want to see what you actually submitted for a whole farm plan last year. So that there's a means to do that and go back and view the different snapshots. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, if you just get in touch with us through the help desk, then we'll be able to add your new land onto your existing map, and you can just then take it from there. You can populate the expanded map. So you don't, and thirdly, you don't have to press whole farm plan submit again if you pressed it last year and not made any changes. But obviously in your case, if you want to have your habitat map whole farm plan covering all your land that you've got now, you would have to press it again.
Wendy is asking, is the info about species on the croft shared with anyone else or visible by the public?
So I can come in on that one. No, it's just for the use of the person for their business and their team. So it's not shared any wider.
Katrina is asking if a reminder will come out when the 5 years comes to an end.
Who knows? Who knows what's down the line? So we could be into a whole new system by then. But no one knows at the moment.
Philippa is asking, is there a recommended frequency to plan updates? I guess that's within the 5-year period, Philippa, that you're thinking.
We are looking for you guys to remain engaged with biodiversity and nature on your croft, and so if things change, we'd recommend that you change your plan and keep it accurate. And so there is no official recommended frequency, but obviously, as I say, be good to just keep it accurate, and if there's any changes, to at least keep your version updated. The minimum for your whole farm plan is to every 5 years, but that's the official timeline. Okay.
Catherine is asking, is it better to add in as much detail as possible or keep it simple? Are we likely to be penalised if lacking detail?
I'll come in on that. I mean, obviously it's a Scottish Government thing, but there's the minimum set out, as Liz talked about. So you just make sure that you meet that minimum. At the moment, there's no penalties involved, but that may change. But so it's just make sure you're clear on what's the minimum required. 1 habitat per field. The boundary features, the linear features, and mapping any of this like white space, whether it's scrubby bit of woodland or whatever that doesn't have its own LPID number. That's 3 things, isn't it, Liz? So just bear that in mind.
Wendy asks, when is the 5 years measured from if you regularly update or add extra details? I guess it's that, okay, you can correct me if I get this wrong, but I think it's every 5 years you need to submit your map but you could just update it and you don't have to submit in between the 5 years. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
For now. Murray is saying when he did his plan last year, he got confused by what was meant by white land.
So this is what I'm saying there about you've got your official field boundaries that you have within the Scottish Government within ARPID's mapping system, yeah, and which each have a the land parcel identifier, but your whole croft or farm boundary might go beyond that. So you might have, as I say, scrubby bit of a bit of scrub or something like that that isn't within one of those official LPID boundaries, but is within the croft, within your croft, and that's the piece of land that is white space and should be mapped. So effectively, you should be showing within your map your entire croft boundary.
We had a webinar last week about the rural payment system and the mapping and how you get logged onto the mapping. And somebody asked what they had a field that had been excluded from their official maps because of bracken. And so I guess a field like that, so they had to take it out of their official maps because it had too much bracken. So then I guess that would be then a white classed as white land in this case. Space. And so in that case, they would need to map that brackeny.
Although that could have been, if it's a whole field, or it's still likely to have its own land parcel identifier, and particularly if it's like a big section within a field, it'll still be within the a piece of land within an official LPID boundary. So I would think it would still have that.
So it's more the those in between awkward spaces that are neither one field nor another. Yeah. We have a question, will there be penalty implications if the habitats have changed or not aren't updated at the point of an ARPID land inspection?
As I say, I'm carrying on here, but I'm not obviously part of the Scottish Government Inspections Department, but my understanding is that at the time of you submitting, it should be as accurate as possible. But I think I would have to check the guidance to see. It probably says recommended that if something changes that you should amend it, and that's what Chris, you were saying as well, wasn't it, that you could amend and put in an amendment.
But at this stage, there's no penalties for that. It's and also if if there was an inspection and they said, well, maybe actually we think this isn't the correct habitat or something like that, they'd just have a discussion with you. There wouldn't be any penalty at this stage. So yeah. Catherine's asking about dry stone dikes. At the moment, there isn't a separate option for flagstone dike, so I guess you would map it as that category. But that's useful feedback to kind of feed in. So thank you for that one.
Vic is asking, is there an option for cleared fields? She's had pigs to try and control bracken, so at this stage doesn't know if the cover crop that's been sown will grow or whether the bracken will still be there.
Just the best guess as to what's there at the time of you doing your mapping, so if and submitting it for whole farm plans. So I guess whatever's there before you press the button, and it'll be be fine. It just reflects what's there at the moment, and good luck.
Yeah, I think it's not something to get too worried about, I think, is it? I think that's the message.
That's the thing.
You can do your best with with the information you've got, and there aren't going to be penalties.
So it was just on the flagstone dike thing there that I knew we'd picked it up before. The actual full category within the habitat list is dry stone or flagstone dike. But just for the purpose of within our app, we've shortened it down to dry stone dike, but you'll see in the kind of expansion of the habitat description and in the full habitat list, it's dry stone or flagstone dike boundary. So it is there. It is there.
I was just going to ask Chris on the rural payments, but once you get all the maps completed, do they just get logged on that system, or do you have to upload them and send them?
When I do it, there's a validate option, and then when you finish it, you're already on their system anyway. So when you finish it, it comes up with a page. You can save the map, and then it'll send it away to them automatically. So you don't need to do anything else after that.
Right, right. Thank you.
Ron is asking, what is the correlation between biodiversity audits and greening? And if one's croft is less than 30 hectares, is there a point to doing an audit? It's a requirement for the whole farm plan, and greening is a separate element of basic payment if you've got a croft or farm over 30 hectares and certain other, I think it's actually arable land over 30 hectares, isn't it? Which is quite unusual for a croft anyway.
So anyone with a claiming basic payment at all has to do whole farm plan, which includes the biodiversity audit. I could say, Liz, couldn't we, well, people are maybe thinking of other questions, that we have been analysing the feedback from people like Andy last year doing the habitat condition assessments, and Liz and the team have been revising them over the winter with a view to releasing them again for testing this summer. So if you do sign up, you can look out for them being the latest versions of them being released, and we'll be looking for further feedback.
My map is on the Farm Biodiversity website. Maybe that's a question, but I have no individual field parcels, just a main boundary.
Okay, that sounds a bit weird, and we'd like to help you out with that. So if it's probably best if you email, goodness, I'm about to forget the email address, Liz, farm.biodiversity@nature.scot.
Yeah, farm. I'll put it in the chat actually.
Okay.
Let me see.
And just get in touch, and we'll see what's going on with that. That sounds very strange, so we'll sort that out for you.
So that the Farm Biodiversity, your site will be links to the LPID so that you can get your maps through automatically.
Yes, the land mapping team can access the submitted maps and convert it into the LIPIS habitat layers.
And so maybe I missed this, when you first set up on the NatureScot app, you kind of pull through your fields from the rural payments site. Is that right? Is that how that?
We do that in the background. You don't have to do anything.
Okay, that's just automatic.
And it's not a live link. So there is one little caveat there, in that we have a cut of the data as of March, and we then pull the data from that. So it's not a live link. So if you make a change, like can't remember who it was that had additional land, that might happen in between the time that we've got the cut of data, and that's when just need to get in touch and we'll get a new updated field boundary list.
Ron is asking, if his apportionment does not connect directly with his croft, does he need to do 2 audits, or can they be combined in one?
Geography, no, doesn't matter. If it's all within the one BRN, this is where I get slightly confused with crofting, sorry, but if it's all within the one BRN, it will show, it will come through, and all your fields and apportionment will show on your map. And that will be one map, one audit. Right, okay, so yeah, no, you just need to complete the fields in a oneer and press submit as a oneer.
I guess the thing that makes it easy is that when you actually go onto either the app or the RPS system, they're there, aren't they? So you can, yeah, if if there is the one
If they're there,
BRN,
you
will
have to
just
put, you have to,
yeah,
if they're there, fill it
exactly.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to go looking for things.
And just remember to do your linear features, your boundary features, whether maybe not so many hedges and things and cross, but lines of trees, dikes, and things like that. Then make sure you remember to add them, because they're required and you have to specifically add them. Ron has asked about a dike, the significance of a dike. I suppose, Liz, I was just going to say about the biodiversity importance of a dike for beasties and things like that, isn't it? says a non-ecologist.
Yes, I mean, I think, they can be quite important features within the landscape, even if they're, former dikes, or all of those kind of features can be really important. So yeah. So
Ron is saying he's not sure about this dike. Even if it's just a rumble of fallen stones, maybe it never was a dike. Yeah, we've got some rumbles like that on our craft, which never sure what they were, but a wall of some sort at some point.
Good word.
Yes. Do you include rumbles of fallen stones as a marker?
Entirely up to you. You could always put it as a point feature, but not a cairn. Yes, you could put point feature of a cairn. But yeah, it's not to worry about it.
Yes, absolutely. Ours is definitely, our rumbles are definitely habitats. That's where our adders hide out, I think.
Of course.
So very useful. Susan's asking, what about ditches?
So the water courses and rivers and streams, ditches, whatever. I'm just going to quickly look up the definition, because basically what they've said, what was said is rivers and streams. You only need to map rivers, streams and ditches that run water for the majority of the year and don't appear on Ordnance Survey maps. So you can, I showed you the toggle for the OS rivers layer, and you could toggle that on, and any ditches or burns that are not shown on that, then you can add as a linear feature. But if they're on the OS, you don't need to map them specifically, because if you toggle the layer, they will show.
Thank you very much. Liz and Kay coming along from Nature Scott.
Pleasure. Thanks for asking us.
No, it's always really great to have you along, and thank you, Andy and Chris and Neil, for your contributions. It's always really good to hear from crofters how they've got on with things, just to see if they're as straightforward as they're supposed to be.